Hey everybody, it's Jared here from the Arlo support team, and a big thanks for joining me today. In this training session I'm going to be taking you through some exciting new changes to our Xero integration. Our much awaited partial payments feature is being released at the moment, and this functionality has a number of benefits such as being able to add and track partial payments on orders inside of Arlo, the ability to create credit notes for unpaid orders, and the ability to allocate credit balances to separate orders as a form of payment. Now, in order to take advantage of these great new features, as well as our soon-to-be released deposits functionality, there are some key process changes which you'll need to be aware of if you're using the Xero integration. Those are what we're going to be focusing on today. So we've got a lot to get through today, but we've broken them down into some key processes. So the first of which that we're going to cover is adding and removing payments on orders exported to Xero. Then we're going to take a look at creating a credit note for an order and exporting that to Xero. Then we'll move on to allocating a refund balance from a credit note to another order. Finally, we'll look at cancelling and deleting orders in Arlo. Now, if you are also using Stripe, you can stick around and look at some Stripe reconciliation enhancements. This is designed to help make that reconciliation process a lot smoother from your end and to save you from doing some of the manual work that you'll be doing at the moment. Okay, so let's jump straight into it. First of all, we're going to look at adding and removing payments. Now, one of the biggest enhancements we've made is that you can now add partial payments to orders created in Arlo. This also introduces one of the biggest changes to the Arlo order system, which is where payments are now recorded and managed. Put simply, the new rule of thumb is that if an order is exported to Xero, you need to record payments against that order in Xero. As Xero is the accounting system, this is the primary source of truth for any payments made. With that being said, let's have a look at how to actually add a payment to a Xero invoice and synchronize it across into Arlo. From the order inside of Arlo, there is a View in Xero button. If you click this, this is going to take you directly to the Xero invoice that has been created for the Arlo order. At the bottom of the page on the Xero invoice, there's a Receive a Payment section. This is where you can add in the details of the payment you would like to record. This can either be a full payment or a partial payment. In this case, let's quickly enter a full payment. Once the details of your payment has been added, press the Add Payment button. This is going to record the payment against the Xero invoice. Let's jump back across over to the Arlo order and have a look what impact that's had. Payments that are synchronized from Xero come across to Arlo every single hour. If you need a payment to be made visible on an Arlo order any sooner than that, you can click the Sync Payments button. This is going to pull through any changes made in Xero in real time so that your orders in Arlo can always be up to date. In this case, you can see that a new payment is going to be added from Xero, and it's going to reduce the total of the Arlo order to 0. Once you press Synchronize to Xero, the synchronization will occur in the background, and once completed, you'll notice that a payment log has been added to the order. This is where you can go and see additional information about the payment that's been recorded. Now, if you've mistakenly added a payment in Xero that has been synchronized across to Arlo, you can remove it. Once again, the process is very simple. All you need to do is jump back into the Xero invoice, and then from the Xero invoice, click the Less Payment. This is going to show you a list of all of the transactions that have been recorded against the Xero invoice. From the Options menu, you can remove and redo payments. Once a transaction has been removed, inside of Arlo, this will synchronize across on the next synchronization run. Once again, if you need to have the payment updated any sooner, you can use the manual sync option, and in this case you can see that the existing payment that has been added from Xero is now to be removed, and the amount due on the order in Arlo is to be updated and reflected as the original value. So just to recap quickly on what we've covered about adding and removing payments, once an order has been exported to Xero, payments must be recorded in Xero and will synchronize to Arlo. Payments synchronized to Arlo can come from payments recorded manually as part of reconciliation or credit notes applied to invoices inside of Xero. You can perform a manual synchronization to pull payments into Arlo if you need them to appear any sooner, and payments removed in Xero will also be removed from orders inside of Arlo. Now, there are a couple of important exceptions that you need to be aware of for these processes. One is that if the order is created and paid for by credit card on the Arlo checkout, Arlo will approve the order, mark it as paid, and pass the credit card payment to Xero automatically. This is no different than the current integration. So if you are taking credit card payments, you don't need to worry about having to pick up some extra manual work now. The process has not changed. If an order has been created in Arlo and not exported to Xero, for example, if you don't export orders automatically, then you'll be able to add manual payments inside of Arlo. And when you do decide to export the order, those payments will be sent across to the Xero invoice. So if you'd prefer to manage the order inside of Arlo, you can still do so as long as that order has not been exported to Xero yet. Next up, we're going to talk about creating credit notes for orders inside of Arlo. There are a couple of key scenarios for when you would want to create credits instead of outright cancelling an order. For example, if you need to cancel one or some of the registrations on the order, but keep others active, you wouldn't want to cancel the whole order, you'd only want to credit the cancelled registrations. Or, if you needed to keep an order record active as it had payments recorded against it, you can't simply cancel it, you need to create a credit so that you can refund the paid balance. Generally, the process for creating credits involves two steps. The first is cancelling the registrant's place on the event, and the second is managing the financial change, which can either be to adjust an invoice to reflect they won't be paying for a registration by creating a credit, or by refunding a payment. First of all, let's look at an unpaid order and create a credit note for it. In this scenario, the order has two registrants, Jamie Simpson and Felicity Merrington. In this case, let's pretend that Felicity Merrington can no longer attend the course, and so we need to cancel her registration, but also create a credit for the balance that's due for that registration. First of all, from the order, all you need to do is press the edit button. Once that's done, you can then cancel Felicity's registration. Press save to process the cancellation and send out notification to Felicity and also the order contact of the changes to the order. Now that we've cancelled Felicity's registration, we also need to create a credit for it. To do this, at the bottom of the page, we need to select Add Credit Note. This will take you to the credit note screen, and by default, Arlo will list each line item on the order as credits to be applied. In this case, since we're only crediting Felicity Merrington, we need to move the credit from Jamie Simpson by pressing the X button. Once we confirm that we've deleted the line, it will disappear from the credit, and then we can save the credit note. Finally, we can export the credit note to the accounting system and also send the credit note to the order contact on the original order. At this stage now, the credit note has been created and exported to Xero, and we can see that the credit balance has automatically been applied to the original order. So if we take a look at the original order, the balance due for that order is now only the balance for Jamie's registration, which is the active registration on the order. Now, in some cases, you may need to create a credit for an order that has been paid for. The process for this is relatively similar to the last process we followed, except instead of a credit being applied to the original order, you can process a cash refund. So to do this, just like last time, first of all, you want to open up the order, edit it, and then cancel the registration that is going to be refunded. Once we've done that, we can save our changes and notify the order contact of the change, and also get the cancellation email out to the registrant. Now that we've completed the cancellation, we can process the refund for the payment that has been submitted. At the bottom of the page, you'll see the credits and refunds section, and we want to click Make a Refund. A list of lines from the order will be displayed. From here, you want to select the lines that you want to refund. In this case, we've only cancelled Holly Williams's registration, so that's the one that we're going to be refunding. Once that's done, press Create Credit Note, and you'll be taken through to a screen much like the last process, which has a line item for the refund. At this point, you can add, if you'd like, any cancellation fees or additional credit lines. That's up to you and is optional. Press Save once you've confirmed exactly what you want to refund, and you'll get the option to either pay as a cash refund or not. If you don't select this option, the refund will be stored and you will be able to allocate the balance to an additional order in the future with the same billing contact, and we'll cover that scenario shortly. But in this case, let's pay the cash refund out. Here we get the total amount of payment to refund. Now, as the payments that were made for this order were captured offline, meaning that they weren't submitted via credit card, Arlo won't actually pay out the refund. You'll have to do that yourself, but you can record how much you are refunding here. If the payment was captured via credit card through Arlo's checkout, then you'll have the option to actually process the refund directly from Arlo. Once we've submitted the refund payment, we can see that the credit note has been captured inside of Arlo and the payment has been completed, and we can export the credit note now out to Xero. Now we've talked about how to create credit notes for unpaid orders and also how to process cash refunds. But what if you have a customer who needs to be refunded but doesn't actually want that cash back? They may want to allocate that payment towards an order they make in the future. This is where allocating an unpaid credit balance can be really handy. Now, if you've processed a refund for a paid order, but you haven't paid it out as cash, as we saw in the last scenario, you can then assign out that credit balance to another order as long as the billing contacts on the original refund and the new order are the same. So when taking a look at that in Arlo, we can see here that we've got a credit note that has been created, but it hasn't been paid out as a cash refund. Instead, the credit remains on the actual credit note. This credit note has been exported to Xero, and so that's where the credit now lives. We can see on this credit note that the billing contact is billed to Design Queue Head Office. Now in this case, if we flick over to a new order that Design Queue have submitted, we can see that this order has a total amount due of $895. This order has also been exported to Xero and has no payments marked against it yet. If we open up the order by clicking the View on Xero link and we jump across into Xero to view the invoice, we can see that the order is awaiting payment, but there is a note to say that Design Queue Head Office has $394 in outstanding credit. So what we can actually do is we can credit the order using that credit balance, which we'll do now, and allocate the credit so that the remaining due is reduced. Once that's been done, if we jump back across into Arlo now, we can now synchronize the payment from the credit note that was applied, and the order will be updated in Arlo to reflect that the amount due is now what is due in Xero. So, just to recap on the cancellation and credit note processes, if an order is unpaid, you can create a credit note to update the balance due on that order for any cancellations that might occur or people that won't attend. If an order is paid, you can process a cash refund and either pay that refund in cash. Arlo can also execute that refund if it's for a credit card payment, or you can retain the credit balance to use on a separate order as long as the billing contacts are the same. Now, at times there may be some orders that have been raised in error, for example, administrative mistakes. That's why we're going to look at cancelling orders. This process should only be followed where an order has not had a payment recorded against it. Otherwise, a credit note should be raised, which we covered earlier. To cancel an order, all you need to do is open the order up inside of Arlo, click Disconnect from Xero, and then click Cancel Order. Once the order has been cancelled, you'll also have the option to delete the order completely. Be very careful, because if you do this, you won't be able to pull up the order in any form of report or in Arlo again. The order in Xero will still remain active, so you'll need to also jump across into Xero and void and cancel the order in there. Now, if you're not using Stripe, that concludes our training session. If you are using Stripe with Arlo, we're also going to look at some Stripe reconciliation enhancements to make the process of reconciliation a lot easier. Arlo now has the ability to separate Stripe transaction fees from credit card transactions that are submitted using the Arlo checkout. In order to do this, there are a number of steps that you'll need to configure first of all. So what we're going to do is look into Xero at the moment, and we can go into the accounting menu and then access our chart of accounts. And we need to ensure that we have an account for the Stripe fees. So I'm going to add an account, and I'm going to make it an expense account. It's a cost, and I'm just going to give it a code of Stripe. Now, one thing that's really important is that on this new account, you need to ensure that Enable Payments to this account is selected, and we'll save that new account. Once the account has been added, you can jump out of Xero, and we're going to complete the rest of the configuration inside of Arlo. Inside of Arlo, in your settings, are the Xero integration settings. At the bottom of the page are your payment and account settings. The first and the second settings are for your general payments, which are offline payments, and your credit card payments. The third setting is for the credit card fees. This is for the expense account used to record transaction fees on any of your Stripe purchases. What we're going to do now is enter the Stripe account that we set up inside of Xero. The last setting is for the credit card fees contact. This is the person that will be listed on the transaction fee line items inside of Xero. Again, I'm going to use a contact that I created earlier, which is called Stripe. Once you've set that up, the configuration is complete. Now let's take a look at what an order will look like when it's sent from Arlo into Xero with Stripe fees. So here we have an example of an order that's been submitted via the Arlo checkout and has been paid for by credit card. So if I open the payment log, I can see that a payment of $999 was received via credit card, and the order has been exported out across to Xero. Now, if we jump across into Xero and have a look at our current account, we can see at the top here that the payment has been received for $999, but there's also a second transaction which has been created for the Stripe fee amount for that particular transaction of $22.29. So Arlo has automatically known to split that fee amount off to the separate expense account. Now if we jump over to the reconciliation screen, what this all means is that when it comes time to complete your reconciliation, the process should be very, very simple. So at this time we can see that Stripe has made a batch payment into our account of $976.71, and in terms of the transactions that I need to reconcile, because the Stripe fee has been split out from the payment amount that I received from Arlo, I can simply select the initial payment and the Stripe fee, and you'll see that the money received matches the amount that I'm going to reconcile. And so you can see that the process now is a lot simpler, and hopefully that's going to save you a lot of time going forward using Stripe and Xero together. So that wraps up today's training session, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. If you do need any help about anything that you've seen, please email our support team at support@arlo.co and we'll be happy to help. Speak soon.